Gorthak the Mighty stood 12 feet tall, his 4 muscular arms flexed as he surveyed the pathetic human colony before him. His crimson scales gleamed under the artificial lights of the space station, and his 3 eyes rolled with obvious disgust. Oh, how the mighty had fallen. These soft, pink creatures were supposed to be the terror of the galaxy? What a joke. Behold! Gorthak bellowed, his voice echoing through the metal corridors like thunder. I am Gorthak, Beast Lord of the 7th Spiral, Conqueror of Worlds, Devourer of Hope. He paused dramatically, waiting for the screams and pleas for mercy. Instead, the humans just stared. Some even looked bored. The audacity, a small human child, no more than 7 years old by his estimation, sat cross-legged on the floor in front of him. She had dark hair tied in pigtails and wore a simple blue dress. More insulting still, she was stroking what appeared to be a common earth feline. The creature was black with white patches, looking utterly unremarkable as it dozed peacefully in her lap. Little morsel, Gorthak sneered, leaning down toward the girl. Do you not tremble before my magnificence? I have crushed armies beneath my claws. I have the mister, the child interrupted, not even looking up from her pet. You're really loud. Could you maybe use your inside voice? Buttons doesn't like when people shout. Gorthak's jaw dropped. In 3 centuries of conquest, no being had ever dared to interrupt him mid-threat. His scales flushed deeper red with rage. Silence, whelp. I am addressing your pathetic species before I grind you all into— Seriously though, the girl said, finally looking up with the most unimpressed expression he'd ever seen. Do you always yell like that? Because that's not very polite. My mom says using your inside voice is important for good manners. The Beast Lord's 3 eyes twitched simultaneously. Was this child mocking him? Him? The terror of 12 star systems? You dare lecture me about manners, you insignificant— Oh, and another thing, she continued, completely unbothered by his growing fury. Your whole scary monster act is pretty over the top. Like, we get it. You're big and mean. But the dramatic pausing? Kind of cheesy, don't you think? Gorthak's roar of outrage shook the entire station. Several humans covered their ears, but the little girl just sighed and shook her head disapprovingly. See? There you go again with the yelling. I have devoured civilizations. Gorthak thundered, his 4 fists clenched. I have turned entire planets to ash. And you sit there petting your pathetic beast as if I am nothing more than a minor inconvenience. The girl, who couldn't have weighed more than 50 pounds soaking wet, looked up at him with the patience of a kindergarten teacher dealing with a particularly difficult child. First of all, Buttons isn't pathetic. He's a very good kitty. Second, you seem really stressed. Have you tried meditation? My dad says it helps with anger management. Several humans in the background were now openly snickering. Gorthak could feel his reputation crumbling like a sandcastle in a tsunami. This was not how conquests were supposed to go. Where was the cowering? The begging? The dramatic last stands? Your insolence ends now, he roared, raising all 4 arms to strike. I shall make an example of you that will do, dude, the girl said, rolling her eyes. You really need to work on your people skills. All this threatening and posturing is just compensation, isn't it? Classic small being syndrome. Small being syndrome? Small being syndrome? Gorthak's vision went red. No one, absolutely no one, had ever suggested he was compensating for anything. He was 12 feet of pure muscle and terror. He had conquered the Vorthan Empire single-handedly. He had also, the girl continued, scratching behind her cat's ears, your whole entrance was super cliché. Beast Lord of the blah blah blah, Conqueror of whatever. Have you considered maybe updating your material? It's pretty dated. That was it. Gorthak had reached his breaking point. This insolent little creature would serve as a perfect example to the rest of these pathetic humans. He would crush her like an insect, and then they would understand true fear. He raised his massive clawed hand, preparing to swat the annoying child like a fly. The humans around them gasped and stepped back. Finally. Some proper terror. This was more like it, but as his hand descended toward the girl, something extraordinary happened. The cat in her lap, which had been sleeping peacefully throughout the entire exchange, suddenly opened its eyes, and Gorthak the Mighty, Beast Lord of the 7th Spiral, Conqueror of Worlds, Devourer of Hope, froze in absolute terror, because those weren't the eyes of any ordinary earth feline, they were ancient. Predatory. And filled with an intelligence that made his 3 brains scream warnings he couldn't quite comprehend. The cat yawned, revealing teeth that seemed far too sharp, far too many, and far too eager for such a small mouth. Oh, the little girl said cheerfully, noticing Gorthak's sudden stillness. Buttons is awake now. He doesn't usually wake up unless something really interesting is about to happen. Gorthak tried to move, tried to complete his strike, but every instinct honed over centuries of warfare was screaming at him to run. Fast, the cat called Buttons stood up slowly, stretching each paw with deliberate precision. Gorthak watched in growing horror as the creature seemed to grow larger with each movement. Not physically larger, mind you, but somehow more present. More there. As if reality itself was bending to accommodate its existence. You know, Lucy said conversationally, still completely oblivious to Gorthak's paralysis, Buttons used to belong to my great-great-grandmother. She found him when she was about my age. That was like, super long ago. Maybe 80 years or something. 80 years? Gorthak's 3 brains processed this information with mounting dread. Earth felines typically lived 15 years at most. This creature should have been dead decades ago. Yet here it sat, looking at him with eyes that held the weight of eons. He's been in our family forever, Lucy continued, running her small hand along the cat's spine. Mom says he's probably the oldest cat on the whole station. Isn't that right, Buttons? The cat purred. The sound was wrong. Completely, utterly wrong. It resonated through the metal deck plating, through Gorthak's bones, through dimensions he didn't know existed. It was the sound a black hole might make if it could express contentment. Listen here, you oversized lizard, Buttons said. Gorthak's hearts nearly stopped. All 3 of them. The cat had spoken. In perfect galactic standard, no less. With an accent that suggested education at the finest universities in the galaxy. Oh good. Lucy clapped her hands together. Buttons talks to you too. He usually only talks to family. You must be special. Special. Right. Gorthak was definitely feeling special right now. The kind of special that involved questioning every life choice that had led to this moment. Now then, Buttons continued, his voice carrying the casual authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed, I believe you were about to strike my human. I find this inadvisable. You're human? Gorthak managed to croak. Well, technically she thinks she owns me, Buttons replied with what could only be described as amusement. Adorable really. Humans have such charming delusions about the nature of ownership. But yes, Lucy is under my protection. As are all the humans on this station. Protection? Gorthak laughed, though it came out more like a strangled wheeze. You're a house pet. A tiny, fluffy. Buttons tilted his head slightly. Just slightly. And suddenly Gorthak could see them. Shadows. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Lurking in every corner, behind every piece of equipment, in every air vent. All feline. All watching. All very, very interested in what happened next. Did you know, Buttons said thoughtfully, that cats were among the first species to achieve interstellar travel? Oh yes, long before humans developed spaceflight. We've been out here for millennia, establishing ourselves on worlds across the galaxy. Learning. Watching. Waiting. Gorthak's legs began to shake. That's impossible. Cats are primitive Earth animals. They don't have technology. They don't have technology? Buttons interrupted with a purr that sounded suspiciously like laughter. Oh my dear, simple-minded reptile. Why would we need technology when we have something far more effective? Which is humans. The word hung in the air like a death sentence. Around the station, Gorthak could now see them clearly. Other cats. Dozens of them. Sitting calmly beside their human companions, watching him with identical expressions of mild interest. As if he were nothing more than an entertaining diversion. You see, Buttons continued, beginning to groom one paw with obvious satisfaction, humans are remarkably useful creatures. They feed us, shelter us, transport us between worlds, and even clean up our waste. All while believing they're the dominant species. It's quite brilliant, actually. But the conquest fleets, Gorthak protested weakly. Human military might. Their expansion across the galaxy, all carefully guided by us, of course, Buttons replied. Where do you think humans get their best ideas? Their most successful strategies? We've been advising them for thousands of years. A whispered suggestion here, a strategic nap on important documents there. Really, it's child's play. Lucy giggled. Buttons is so smart. He helped me with my math homework yesterday. I got an A+. And why? Gorthak asked, though he was beginning to suspect he really didn't want to know the answer. Are you telling me this? Buttons stopped grooming and fixed him with a stare that seemed to pierce through his very soul. Because, you ridiculous excuse for a predator, you've made a fundamental error in judgment. You assumed humans were the apex species on these stations. You came here expecting to conquer them. I did. How wonderfully naive. Button's purr took on a distinctly menacing tone. You cannot conquer the humans, Gorthak the supposedly mighty, because the humans belong to us. They are our pets, our servants, our willing accomplices in galactic domination. And we cats? We do not share. The shadows around the station began to move. Hundreds of glowing eyes appeared in the darkness, all fixed on Gorthak with predatory intensity. So here's what's going to happen, Button said pleasantly. You're going to leave. Now. You're going to return to whatever pathetic corner of space you crawled out from, and you're going to spread the word. Earth colonies are off limits. Human settlements are under our protection. And if you or any of your kind ever threaten one of our humans again, Button smiled, revealing far too many teeth that seemed to extend infinitely into darkness itself. Well, let's just say that your reputation as a conqueror will become the least of your concerns. Gorthak needed no further encouragement. The beast lord of the seventh spiral, conqueror of worlds, devourer of hope, turned and ran like his tail was on fire. Behind him, Lucy called out cheerfully, by Mr. Lizard. Remember to use your inside voice next time. Button settled back into her lap with a satisfied purr. Humans, he murmured contentedly. Absolutely adorable. And they think they rescued us from the streets. Another successful day protecting the family. Realized he might have made a terrible, terrible mistake.